guys, welcome to the Young Wife Lifestyle in Christ vlog. We're on episode number 2. For those of you who are new, I am Danielle Gatson. I'm 26 years old. I love the Lord, and this is a vlog for people who are in relationships, pursuing relationships, married, and just young. So I do not claim to be an expert, of course. I am just sharing my experiences, insight, and just information that I've gained while being married. I'm 26. I've been married for 3 years, and today we are talking about the heart condition. So the previous episode, we kind of got into, understanding who you need versus who you want. But as we are in the processing and preparation stage, if you are looking for a mate, it's very important that you know what condition your heart is in. So we know that everything that we do flows from our heart, right? So even the bad behavior is connected to either an experience or a belief based on something that we've gone through or something that we felt. So if our heart is not pure, then ultimately we can bring a lot of negativity or unhealthy behavior to our relationship. So for me, example, I just want to give you guys just some insight as to kind of how this applied to me. When I started dating my husband in 2013, I was dealing with insecurity. I thought I was healed, but I wasn't. And it took like an instance or one trigger to kind of make me pop off. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get to the root of my insecurity because I knew I wanted to be with my husband, and I had to be responsible for, what was going on in my heart. And I didn't want to project that onto him. So, of course, we know things like insecurity just don't start out of nowhere. So the thing that God challenged me to do was get to the root of it. Get to the root of why I was insecure and why I didn't see myself the way that God saw me. And of course, like I said before, every behavior is connected to a belief or an experience. So either something that you've gone through can make you have a perspective that is unhealthy and ultimately seep into your heart and cause you to believe things or think about things from behind a veil, really, and not see things the way God sees them. And so whenever you come to a relationship with anyone, you're bringing all of that stuff to them. And of course, you'll never be perfect. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect, but we want to work towards perfection and being healthy so that we can love from a space that is healthy and pure. So for me, I said, okay, God, help me to get to the root of this insecurity, because I don't want to put my guy, my dude, my boo, I don't want to put him through something that has nothing to do with him, right? So I realized, all right, so the insecurity started from a feeling of not seeing myself as good enough. Now, one instance of that was being in multiple relationships where I was cheated on. And so, of course, you take a step back and say, oh my God, is there something wrong with me? Is that female better than me? Or at least that was, my posture at the time. And of course, with maturity, your perspective will change. But I started dating my husband 6 years ago, so I was 20. And of course, I know I've matured since then, but being a growing woman and adult, your perspective, it can be a little childish. And so then I said, okay, but it's deeper than that. So God began to reveal to me that my insecurities actually started like way before I even started dating. And so he took me back to instances where, of course, in school, I was an athlete. I have a very competitive spirit. And so my father, me being the only child, and being athletic, my father was really, really, I guess you can say, hard on me. And it was from a loving space. But for me being like a sensitive girl, because we know that we're all different, but for me being sensitive and being so competitive, sometimes when I would not perform up to the best level or my highest potential, my posture will already be, dang, I failed. And so then with my father, always trying to make sure I'm the best at everything I do, he will always evaluate me after a track meet or after a game or after a match and tell me what I needed to do. And sometimes those evaluations would come with comparing me to other players or other team members. And because my perspective was one that was already hurt, it would make me feel less than. And so even to go deeper, there are instances in my life where I felt like I wasn't good enough way before I started dating. But one thing that God said to me was, anytime you're experiencing hurt, a person can't give you something that they don't have. So when they do interact with you or hurt you or put you through something that you don't deserve, it doesn't speak to the nature of you being less than. Sometimes it speaks to what they have, and a person can't do what they don't know. And so when God really challenged me to say, okay, you can allow when someone hurts you to make you see yourself from a warped perspective. You have to look at it from a full scope of things. It's not that you aren't good enough. Maybe he's not mature. Maybe he doesn't have self-control and he can't give that to you. And so, but me being able to, flush out my, being aware, but flush out my feelings and allowing God to bring his reasoning and his revelation to my hurt, it helped me to get to the root of a behavior. And so we know some of us can deal with things like insecurity or abandonment or trust issues, so forth and so on. And so I want to challenge you to really evaluate what you're dealing with. I know in the Afro-Latina and the Black community, a lot of times we hear that, that feisty, angry Black woman thing, and we can be feisty, but getting to the root of why we're feisty, like why do you respond that way? And being responsible for that, behavior, and not projecting that onto every person that we come in contact with. And that is our responsibility. The word tells us in Psalms 51:10, like God says, David says, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit in me. And so we have to constantly know that everything that we do flows from our heart. And if we allow the wrong belief to get into our heart because of how something made us feel, then we can't operate from a place of purity. And so it can affect every relationship we get into, and we can literally bleed on people. So it's up to us to be aware of that. Even if you haven't fully been healed or delivered, you have to be aware of what you carry, so that when you do get in relationships, you can make that person aware and say, hey, this is something I deal with. I'm not asking you to pacify me, but as God matures and heals me, I want you to know that this comes with this. And we have to be mindful of our triggers. We have to know what triggers us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had this thing where I would have knocked my husband out. And he was like, Pooh, you can't get so upset that you want to get physical. I had to be delivered from that. Now, that was another thing. I was in a relationship where someone actually put their hands on me. So I always had this defensive, like, Pooh, I want to fight you type thing. But that's something that I had to know, like, okay, this is not healthy. And every relationship doesn't work like this. I had to be freed from that. And so when we have heart conditions, apart from experiences being the influence of our heart posture, it can also be things that we see and we believe on a daily basis. My husband and I were watching Dion Cole on Netflix, and this is not a sponsorship, but he has a new Netflix special, a comedy special, and he said something to the nature of, he was like, man, you gotta love yourself. Women especially, you have to love yourself. You can see all these women on Instagram with these tight bodies and long hair, weave, eyelashes, and you're creating a concept of beauty based on something that's not even real, because that person didn't even look like that at a certain point in time. So we're creating ideals based on things that aren't even real, and people that don't even really look like what they look like on IG. And so that takes me to Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so we know it's with our mind that we serve the Lord. But if our mind is occupied, if our mind is not sober, if our mind is filled with thoughts and perspectives that are not of heaven, it can make us suffer or deal with or have feelings about ourselves that are not even real. And so again, that goes back to being aware of what you struggle with, being aware of where you're not healed, and then getting to the root of those things, but also being mindful of what triggers you. Because your mate is going to bring issues with him. We're not perfect people, right? So for instance, and this is something that me and my husband are actually working through now. I'm a talker. I'm a chatter. I chat, right? And so whenever we have heated fellowship, as Dr. Matthew Stevenson would say, I'm the type of person who I want to hit the nail on the head right then and there. Let's fix it. And my husband, because of his upbringing, he's the type of person, he needs to walk away, regroup, and come back and revisit. And when I first got into the relationship, I was like, oh, he don't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to fix it. And so what God had to reveal to me was like, no, just because you handle something a certain way doesn't mean that that person will. So we have to know that everything that we're bringing to the table is going to meet what our partner is bringing to the table. And so not only do we have to be maturing and be in a space of healing and have a place of awareness, but understanding that our partner has their own struggles as well, or things or ideals that they live by. So if we're not in a healthy heart posture or a healthy mental space, then we can create heated fellowship that does not have to exist. But when we are mindful of what's in us, what we're struggling with, or what we're dealing with, it makes it easier for us to navigate. And also too, when we lean into our own understanding and our own reasoning about our experiences, it can make our outlook very dirty. And in Proverbs 3:5, it said, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. So if you're trusting not in the Lord, but trusting in how you felt before, or what you went through before, or what that guy did to you, or what those people did to you, or how those people made you feel, if you're trusting in those experiences and not into God, then that means that you're functioning out of your own understanding. And we know that our understanding is limited. However, when we are free from the constraints of our humanistic perspective, we can allow God to really show us, like, okay, what he wants us to see in us. Okay, you deal with that, but you might not know that you being healed from something can actually prepare you to help your mate deal with that very thing, because it goes back to the episode 1 and understanding that we are joined together to be one. So my strengths may be his weaknesses, but his strengths may be my weaknesses, but we work together. So I want you to ask yourself, is your heart healthy? Because once you get with someone, you're going to bring those problems with you, and they're going to bring their problems with them. And so you both have to be in a space to where you're aware of what you're dealing with, so you can help that other person love you right and help that other person deal with you. But you have to also have a perspective that I can't allow what I'm struggling with to not help me to help them deal with what they're dealing with. So I want to challenge you to be responsible for what's in your heart. Be aware of your behavior. Be aware of your beliefs, because you're going to bring that stuff into your relationship. And you don't want an unhealed wound to be the detriment of your relationship, or any relationship. That can even be friendships, because everything that we've dealt with or everything that we've gone through is going to influence how we see life, how we see hurt, and how we see love. Thank you guys. See y'all next time.